I had a speech, a written speech, but I'm going to put it to one side. Let me tell you, first of all, how grateful I am, and how honored to receive this award, and for you to have me as the guest of honor with my two companions in this very important event. As Mr. Monk said, all the achievements that I've had in the recent past, in those 14 months I've been in office, it's achievement thanks to the Colombian people. They elected me, and the team in my government. So I received this award in their name, and we feel honored. And we feel honored and grateful, and also I think it's a great opportunity because the relations between Canada and Colombia are improving at a very important and intensive pace. I came to Canada for the first time 20 years ago. 20 years ago exactly. I had just been named Minister of Trade, the first Minister of Trade in my country when we opened our economy. A Colombian who was here with me, Rodolfo Moceres, came with me in that delegation. And I came seeking a free trade agreement with Canada. And I was received with skeptical eyes. Colombia, free trade agreement, no way. And I am so happy that 20 years later, I come here as president, and we have a free trade agreement since the 15th of August. So it's been a month of a free trade agreement. I have always, and since I was trade minister 20 years ago, I've always wished that Canada became much more integrated into Latin America. There's a lot of things we can do together, many things that Canada can offer us and we can offer Canada. And always having a bit of a compensation with the US is also very healthy. So I am very happy to see that this wish, this dream is becoming a reality. In Colombia, we have had a period of good results. And people ask, why is it that your administration has achieved so much in such a short amount of time? Why are you being signaled by foreign investors all around the world and by analysts all around the world as a success story? What is it that you're doing well? And I think I have a very concrete answer. The word is governability, the ability to govern. What I have been trying to accomplish is a country that is united in pursuing concrete objectives. And so far, this effort has been successful. In my campaign, I called for a government of national unity. And this call was accepted by most of the political parties. And so I integrated members of those political parties into my cabinet. And I started negotiating with them. They all had good ideas. In today's world, besides the extremes, the extreme to the right or extreme to the left, I am a third way man. I wrote a book with Tony Blair called The Third Way. And the third way is a very pragmatic approach, which says that you should use the market until it's possible and use the state until it's necessary. And almost everything fits in there. So I sat down with the leaders of the different parties and said, what's your major proposal? And they said, mine is employment. The other one said infrastructure. So I integrated their proposals into my program and brought them in to the government. And this has been the key factor for achieving many of the results that we have had in the last 14 months. It's been so successful that the party that ran against me, the Green Party, in the campaign, a month and a half ago, knocked on the door and said, I want to join the National Union. And they came in. And so I have today an embarrassing 95% of the Congress with me. And and I think in today's world, where many of the problems that we're living today, you were talking about the stock market going down 5% today, this financial and economic turbulence, much of that uncertainty and crisis has to do with a political problem, more than an economic problem. When you go to the US and you see how polarized the Congress is and how they were about to declare default because Republicans and Democrats couldn't agree on anything. Or you go to many of the European countries and you find that they cannot put in place the reforms that are necessary. Or you go to Japan, where I was last week, and they have had 6 prime ministers in the last 5 years. Then you say there is a political problem here. So the ability to govern is the ability to deliver on reforms when these reforms are necessary. And that's what we have been able to do in the last 14 months. We set a very ambitious agenda. People said at the beginning of my administration that I was dreaming, that it was impossible, that there are reforms that would never go through. But again, quoting Roosevelt, he said, I remember saying, if you don't aim high, you will never achieve anything. And so we put a program which was very ambitious, and we worked hard to put this program through Congress, and we achieved a legislature and a set of reforms that are historic. In the history of Colombia, there hasn't been a set of reforms so audacious and so ambitious as the ones that we have been able to pass through Congress in the last year. And that has allowed us to take decisions that have very fast resulted in concrete results, in concrete numbers, in terms of employment, in terms of poverty, in terms of security, and also it has allowed us to start thinking in big terms, which is something that for me is important for a country to have. And that has created an atmosphere of optimism, which I cherish every single day, and I protect it, and I try to increase it. And that combination, having the governability, the ability to govern and take decisions, and a society that is united and has optimism, that's a magic formula to achieve things. And if you have a clear objective of what you want, if you have a port of destiny, Seneca used to say, when you have a port of destiny, you use all winds, favorable or unfavorable, to reach that port of destiny. And I think we have a port of destiny. It's very simple. You can't make miracles. We want a country with less poverty. We want a country with more employment. We want a country where fundamental rights are respected for every single citizen. The human rights aspect for me is very important, as I know it is here in Canada. Our Constitution is very ambitious in that respect, and we are simply applying our Constitution. We are a country that for 200 years has been respectful for the rule of law. That's why Colombia is the only country in all of Latin America where there's never been a renegotiation of our debts. We respect our contracts, we respect our word. We've had many problems. Colombia has been a very violent country. Colombia has been a country of contrast. But sometimes the stars align themselves, and I think we are in that special set of circumstances that we have to take advantage of in order to take that big step forward that countries take when the opportunities are present. And we're trying to do that. Unfortunately, the opportunities have become realities. We have a coherent economic plan. We built our development plan in a very sophisticated way. Before, you simply asked each minister, what are your objectives, and they wrote a chapter and you added up, and that's the development plan. We said no, we must have a coordinated plan. What the Minister of Communications does has to be consequent with what the Minister of Mines or the Minister of the Environment or the Minister of Work, of Labor. And so we passed through Congress a very coherent development plan with a long-term vision. We said to ourselves, we need a set of conditions to fulfill our social objectives. One of those conditions is identify the engines of growth. We used our common sense. Where are we more backward in comparison with countries that have our same level of development? And we identified housing, we identified infrastructure, we identified the agricultural sector, where Colombia is one of the few countries that has ample land to increase our food production. We had an engine that was already going at a fast rate, which is mining and energy, and one that we introduced that is transversal to every other, which is a problem that all of Latin America has. It's our low productivity. The economies of Latin America have been famous because of their low productivity, so there's a tremendous margin for growth simply by innovating and acquiring the culture of innovation. And that's why we passed a constitutional reform to distribute the royalties of the mining and the oil royalties more evenly throughout the country, to be more just. But 10% of those royalties, of all the royalties in Colombia, we're going to be, by constitution, invested in research and development, in innovation. And I hope that this is something that if we can acquire the culture of innovation, the potential is enormous, because in the long run, if you build the bridges and the roads, then the demand sort of flattens out. If you build the housing that you need, then you reach a plateau. And then all the countries that have grown at a high rate during the last 20 or 30 years is because they have acquired the culture of innovation. And that's why we are a bit obsessed, and I'm obsessed about that. And there, with Canada, we can create a synergy, I think, a very interesting synergy. And it's not only economic innovation, it's social innovation. Because we have some very hard social challenges. Because unfortunately, Colombia is a very unequal country where the level of poverty is one of the highest in Latin America. And we're doing everything that we're doing has a social objective. Is to make the worse off better off. And that's why we have specific programs, not only economic growth, which is a macro condition, but specific programs geared towards the worse off. We have 15% of extreme poverty. This is something that I'm ashamed of. It's a very rich country, and we can't present ourselves with such indicators. And that's why we give so much importance to the social development of our country. Of course, we have to have high growth, and for that we need investment. And foreign investors will find a country that is friendly, extremely friendly with foreign investment. The only conditions that I put to any foreign investor is the same ones that your Prime Minister would put to any foreign investor in Canada, or any investor in general. Social responsibility, environmental responsibility. Besides that, if you make a lot of money, well, that's better, because we also benefit, the Colombians benefit. And so we have a very positive attitude towards foreign investment, contrary to other countries in Latin America. We think that the foreign investors are partners in our development, and we treat them as partners. And I hope that the Canadians that are now present in Colombia feel that way. And you're going to have I say, a very boring country in terms of being predictable. I say to the investors, sometimes that's impossible to fulfill 100%, but the attitude is there, and we want to be as predictable as possible. Colombia is going through a very interesting moment in our history. I think we have what the world is seeking. We have lots of energy, minerals, we have lots of water, we have lots of land to produce more food in a world that is starting to suffer a food crisis. We have biodiversity, the Amazon. We are the richest country per square kilometer in the world in terms of biodiversity. We have a young population. We have a good working force. And I think the investors that are already in Colombia can vouch for the quality of our workforce, our managerial force. And so we think we have the raw material, but we need partners. We need capital, we need technology in order to really make these resources productive and achieve our social objectives. We have been very proactive in the international arena. As was mentioned here, I decided to make peace with our neighbors. It was absurd to have a neighbor with 2,200 kilometers of very light frontier with no trade, no diplomatic relations, not even a conversation, and even speaking about war, the possibility of war. I said to myself, this is absurd. So I sat down with Mr. Chavez and I said, listen, let's be reasonable. Let's do something which is very important in life, for a country, for a human being, for family. For our relations. My wife and I, we've been married for 25 years, happily married, because we respect our differences. If she has something to say about that she doesn't like what I'm doing, I respect her opinion. Respecting the differences is a key ingredient of good relations. So I said to Chavez, why don't we try to respect our differences? You'll never convince me that for me to become a Bolivarian revolutionary. Forget about that. And I will never convince you to become a liberal Democrat. So let's respect our differences and have a good relation. And that's what we've had in the last 14 months. Same with Ecuador. That allowed us to play a proactive role in the whole region, the whole of the UNASUR. Now we are the Secretary Generals of UNASUR. We are playing a role in the Security Council. I met with all the members of the Security Council right now in New York. We're now discussing this very touchy issue of Palestine and Israeli, a possible agreement or disagreement. It's a difficult issue. We try to, and we made an intervention just before coming here in the Security Council about doing a much more proactive, preventive diplomacy. It's very good to be a member of the Security Council and approve resolutions intervening in countries when the conflict is already in full speed. It's much better to intervene before and avoid the crisis. It's much cheaper and it's less costly in every respect. We think that the United Nations and all the regional organizations, the OAS, should be much more proactive in preventive diplomacy, and Colombia is trying to play a role there. We are being very aggressive in our commercial diplomacy. We're very proud to have been able to put into effect the free trade agreement with Canada. We're very optimistic about the potential that this free trade agreement has. EU imports roughly $780 billion. For us, this is music to our ears. You have the potential you have a market of 46 million Colombians. There's a lot of investment that you can make there that could be very profitable. So there are many things that we can do together. We share, as we discussed with Prime Minister Harper, who honored us with a visit some weeks ago, we share the same values. We share the same principles. And it's easy, Canadians and Colombians, to work together on many issues, not only on the economic sphere, also on the political sphere. And I'm very optimistic of this approach. That's why I accepted this invitation without any doubts. When I promised you that I would be here, I knew, because I value the relationship with Canada very, very much. And so we are trying to look towards the Pacific. You have also a very important Pacific coast. I was in Japan and Korea last week. We are negotiating free trade agreements with both countries. For us, it was a big step, because also after Canada, I went to Asia, and my dream was a free trade agreement with the Asian countries, especially Japan and Korea, because we thought that those are two very important countries, and that dream is going to become a reality in the very near future. So we want to have open trade with the world. And I was speaking to former Prime Minister Mulroney how important it was for Canada, for example, the free trade agreement with the US. And how that has changed in many ways your potential and your way of working, and has made you much more powerful, much richer, much more productive. And we think that that's going to happen with Colombia, with our trade policies and our commercial diplomacy. So I think we are going in the correct path. We were on the verge 10 years ago of being declared a failed state. 1/3 of the territory was in the hands of the paramilitaries, another third was in the hands of the guerrillas, and the third was in the hands of the state. That was the Colombian reality. Today, there's something completely different. To give you only 2 indicators, 9 years ago, out of 1,200 municipalities and mayors of each municipality, 400 didn't go to their municipality because of security problems. Today, every single mayor of municipalities that are way in the far away in the middle of the jungle, they're there, they feel secure. We still have a problem. We're not paradise yet. We still are struggling with a guerrilla that is much weaker today. It's been pushed to the jungles, but they're still present, and they're trying to compensate their weakness with terrorist acts, which are have a lot of media effect, but militarily they are, in a way, militarily and politically, they are in a way defeated. They will not confront the army anymore. They have no capacity. The 97% of the population rejects them. So we're going to continue to press them militarily. We are going for the first time to their strongholds that never before had been affected, and that has forced them to go out and try to show themselves that they're alive, but the trend is very much against their position and their existence. That security, that increased security, has been the basis for us to be able to start thinking on a different agenda. And the type of security that we applied, President Uribe, my former President Uribe, which I replaced, put in place a policy called the democratic security. The word democratic was not a simple adjective. It meant security for every Colombian, and security respecting the Constitution and the law, because that will give the armed forces and the state more legitimacy. And I am honored that to have participated in that democratic security under President Uribe as Minister of Defense, and we had very positive results that changed the mood of the country and changed the vision that the international opinion had about Colombia. For 30 or 40 years, we were signaled in the front pages of the newspapers, in the cover stories of the magazines, as the champions of kidnapping, of murders, of terrorism, of drug dealing. But fortunately, that is the past. And now we are living a new era full of optimism. The polls say that 79% of Colombians think that the country is going in the right direction. This is a big contrast with what is happening in the US or in Europe or in Japan or many other countries where the people are pessimistic about the future. Not in Colombia. You go there, people are very optimistic, and they have reasons to be optimistic. And that's my responsibility, to nurture this optimism, giving them results, giving them reasons to stay optimistic. And we need you, Canadians, foreign investors, to help in this snowball effect. I think that Colombia has a great future. The HSBC Bank said that now there's a new group of countries called the CIVETs that come after the BRICS. The CIVETs are Colombia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Turkey, South Africa. I truly believe that Colombia is going through a very interesting and attractive path. This same bank made a projection of the different economies in the year 2050, and they put Colombia as the most successful country in the whole of Latin America, and we will become one of the most powerful, in the first 25 economies in the world. We have to, if we want that, we have to work hard with some of the luck of Mr. Monk. But we have to work hard, and I think we have the potential, because the best thing we have, fortunately, is our people. And if we educate them well, if we train them well, and we give them hope, and we show a vision and a port of destiny, the Colombians will make it, hopefully with the help of the Canadians. Thank you very much.